Welcome to the Clarity Advisor Show, where you'll learn how to grow your team today. Join Ken Trupke and his guests as they discuss what works and doesn't work to grow your team in today's world. And now, your host, Ken Trupke.
Hello, and welcome to the Clarity Advisor Show. Accounting can be one of the hardest functions to align the skills and experience of your team with the needs of your business. Especially as a small business grows, you can quickly go from too much experience to too little. Well, my guest today, Lisa Sherman, is a certified public accountant and a principal with public accounting firm Doeren Mayhew. Lisa leads the virtual and outsourced accounting services team, typically providing 2 to 3 people to fully support her clients' accounting and finance needs. So here to tell us more about that, welcome Lisa Sherman. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. It's nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Sure, you're very welcome. So Doeren Mayhew, tell me what problem you solve and who are your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Doeren Mayhew is a traditional CPA firm. We are a national organization with offices in Michigan, Texas, Florida, etc. So we like to consider ourselves, one of our missions as we rebranded this year, is really Wayfinder. So helping clients really find their way financially, whether it's tax or audit and financial statement purposes. But my group is outsourced accounting and virtual CFO services. And what I like to say is we solve financial clarity. So what I mean by this is large organizations have leadership teams, and those leadership teams have departments underneath them. They have a whole department of accounting people that help them with the day-to-day accounting and financial reporting. Then we have financial CFOs and FP&A departments that help leaders strategically move them forward, their businesses forward. But when we talk about smaller businesses that 1 million to 20 million in a revenue perspective, they typically lack accounting and finance departments. So where we come in and help businesses in that market is provide that financial clarity, provide them the financial reporting and the metrics that they need. So, sometimes they're relying on a bookkeeper or a spouse to do the day-to-day accounting, and we come in and help them with that. So then they can have a process for reviewing their financial statements regularly, making sure that they are budgeting and planning for the next year onward. And so they can then get that financial clarity to their organization. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I am not sure of is FP&A. What is that?
Financial planning and analysis.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That was just
Sorry for the acronym. I should
No.
know better. I think we all deal with these acronyms, and sort of sometimes someone gets out away from you, and you just have to bring it back down. So
yeah, no problem at all. So I love the idea of Wayfinder. That's a new branding thing with Doeren Mayhew now.
They did, yes. Back in January, we rebranded as a company as a whole, and that was one of their missions. So it's really helping people solve their financial issues. So
yeah, I like that idea, and everything that you walk through makes so much sense. That especially you get into the smaller companies, they just don't have the level of just frankly sophistication, and that's expected because you can't be an expert in everything. And when you're wearing a lot of hats, there's going to be some you're not great at. And so to be able to bring in an outsourced expert just makes so much sense. So what makes Doeren Mayhew unique? What is your niche, and maybe more for your group, your outsourced group? Who are you really targeting?
Yeah, so who I'm targeting is, like I mentioned, businesses from that $1 million mark to 20 million in as a revenue point reference. As far as industries, pretty broad scope. So e-commerce, construction, not-for-profit, professional services. We touch a little bit of everything across the board. But I think what really makes us unique is our team. So we come in as a teamed approach. So typically when we're working up with our clients, just not one person, it's a group of people, 2 to 3 people, depending on the level of engagement. So we would come in at the controllership level. So that would be, for those who aren't familiar with that role in an internal accounting department, that's the role that, closes the month, making sure all the numbers supporting those financial statements are ticked, tied, T's crossed, I's dotted, making sure that they're all accurate, right? And they're timely. So we're not looking at financials, 2 months down the line. That's not very helpful. So that is what the controllership role focuses on. And then we add on the accounting specialist. So some of that transactional reporting, depending on the level, if the client has someone in that role, they might have a bookkeeper, an office manager that can do some of that. But if not, we can fill that need as well. And then on the other side, we work with clients on strategic planning. So more of that virtual CFO role that we're providing, really helping that the client move forward and drive to their goals and needs that they have. We come in at a remote basis and a fractional. So you're not hiring us full time, it's part-time. So that way you can get a whole team of people, whole department at a fractional cost and a fractional amount of time, therefore allowing businesses within that $1 million to $20 million mark to really afford our services.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing on the unique side is that you can bring a team. So it's not just one person as a fractional executive,
Exactly.
but you bring a team of fractional people that can come in and fill a number of different roles at a client. So that sounds like on any given engagement, you're going to bring in the right different skill sets. Broader than that, just like how many people are on your team, not at a given client, but just overall that you can deploy or that you have deployed at various clients.
Yeah. So currently we have about 13 of us that are on the team as total. So, and they would, depending on the level of expertise, obviously I try to, as we get new clients, match them up with not only industry background, so making sure that if they've had exposure to a certain industry, but as well as personality, because I think that makes a huge difference as well.
Yeah, there's got to be some level of compatibility there in any service and arrangement.
Yeah.
The service provider's got to mesh with the client. You can't have an advisor and a client and clash all the time if you're going to make progress. And so it sometimes can feel like, sometimes I think people underplay that. They think that's too much, like worrying about the soft skills, especially in accounting, right? That it's like, well, do I know accounting or don't I know accounting? Well, you still got to communicate. You still got to teach and understand and talk. And so, yeah, if you don't get along, it makes that a lot harder. So tell us how you got here. Go as far back as you choose, but what's your crazy story?
Yeah, so I have not been at Doeren Mayhew for my career, so which I'll explain a little bit. But started off, I'm a CPA, and I did start off in the tax and accounting realm for a boutique firm here out in Southeast Michigan. And I stayed there for quite some time, about 12, 13 years in that position. It was a small firm. It was very comfortable. It was unlike some of the not larger, but some of the CPA firms where you work a ton of hours. So it was a good fit for me as my kids were growing and I was working and all that great stuff. Unfortunately, 2010 hit, 28 through 10, but we got affected a little bit later. So I ended up moving around a couple different places, but just not finding exactly what I was looking for. And then I decided, since I was going to go on my own. And so I actually owned my own practice for a period of time, a tax practice. But during this point in time, I also had an old audit client come up and ask me to be their controller internally. So eventually I made that move over from the public side to private industry, which was pretty cool. And I really fell in love with just being able to make a lot of impact with tax and audit, especially audit work. It's harder to get in there and make change because you're doing an audit function and not necessarily consulting all the time. So it was really nice to be able to make that impact to help the organization grow, add divisions, etc. So after that, I left, had couple different controllership roles. My last private side of my career was a VP of finance for a startup in Ann Arbor. And they ended up selling really quickly at the start of COVID, which is really positive for them. And which led me to just sort of not sure where I was going to be. And Being Garter, which was prior to Doeren merging and being Gartered, approached me on this role, and it seemed really interesting because it took my public accounting side with my private industry side and meshed them in together. And in addition to that, with the I did talk really about, Ken, the technology side of things, but with all the usage of technology that we utilize because we're a remote team, it just was a perfect fit. So,
Well, that's great. And hearing all those different sides, I can really see where you are now is such a good fit for you because you've had both the public and the private, you've had the audit and the tax, and as well as now more advisory and really helping clients make use of the information. Because with an audit function, I understand you're checking to make sure the numbers are correct and presented factually and according to GAAP and all those things, but you're not really giving advice. Whereas in your role now, you can really help people make use of the information. So that's terrific. Well, thanks for sharing all that. So over the course of all that, you've obviously been on a lot of teams and led a lot of different teams. What are some things that have worked for you as you've grown those teams?
Yeah, I think a couple of things that I came across. I had a great CFO that I reported up to that had a concept with socializing topics. And what is meant out of that, if you want change, you don't come into a meeting and say, hey, we're going to change. You come into the meeting with little bits of pieces of information over a period of time, and you socialize those topics. And I thought that was really interesting. And it truly has been so helpful in getting change to happen, is to really take bit-sized pieces so people get used to hearing it, they get used to talking about it. And then when the time to say, hey, we're going to change, it's really a no-brainer. Everyone's on board. So I think that's one of the things. The other thing is siloing information. So as a leader, it's really easy to have a lot of information and not get it to the appropriate people. And so I really try very diligently, because I've been on the other side of not getting the information needed, but being able to communicate to the team, have a place where they can communicate to me as well, both ways, so we can share that information. And that just helps as being on a team, obviously, and not just having one person with that siloed information.
Yeah, getting the information that people need out into the world can be really challenging. And I find so often that leaders think they've communicated, but they haven't. And they're like, well, I was thinking it was in my head. I don't know why everyone doesn't know what I'm thinking. And it's just such a common mistake that humans make. And no one intends it. We want to be good communicators and have people know what they need to know, but it's challenging to do that. And the siloing of information is one of the manifestations of that bad communication. So yeah, I love to hear that you're working hard at that, because it never ends. You've got to always be diligent about, am I communicating the right things to the right people at the right time and in sufficient quantities? So, I will go back to that socializing topics. Do you have an example of that? I've never heard of that. It sounds really interesting.
Oh, what would be an example of that? So let's just say we're gonna change an application that we use internally to help clients out. And everyone loves the application that we're using now. Why would we change? They don't get why we would change. So just coming to them and telling them, or walking through examples where things might not be as good as what we thought that they were at first. Emphasizing, maybe there's a product that's better, and showing them some of that information, and then just keep on growing on it as time evolves. So eventually then when we do a demo on the new product, because I want the buy-in from the entire team, then they already have listened to it versus going straight into the demo and they already love this other product, but they don't want to change because no one likes not no one. Most people are averse to change. So, and that just helps that story to get to that point. That's, I guess, one example that I would give.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That puts some flesh on the bones there. I understand that better. So you're just introducing the topic, talking about it, so that when it comes around, it's not the first time people are hearing about it, and it doesn't feel so jarring. It feels a little bit more natural that we're bringing along.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Yeah, the concept isn't new, but calling it socializing the topic, I love that.
I loved it too. So it has stuck, and even personally, I think it's a good tool to have, right? So there's a lot of times when you want your spouse or your family to do something and they might not want to. So it works always.
Yeah, communication, who knew, works with people everywhere. And everywhere we
Right.
look, there's people. So yeah, yeah, very true. So well, I want to get into some of the other things you've learned as a leader, and maybe even some of the mistakes you've made. And we'll do that
Yeah.
on the other side of the break. So stay with us on the Clarity Advisor Show. Today we're talking with Lisa Sherman.
Is your business where you want it to be or on track to get there? Clarity Advisors helps business leaders improve communication and get your team aligned and engaged for greater success. We specialize in helping you streamline your sales and operating systems to improve efficiency and grow your profits. Call or text Ken at 616-822-2998 to have a complimentary 12-minute call to see what some clarity could do for you.
Okay, welcome back to the Clarity Advisor Show. Today we're talking with Lisa Sherman, an accountant with Doeren Mayhew. And Lisa, as you go around to different clients, what are some things that you're seeing that people are doing well with their teams and with their culture? What you see a lot of different companies. So what are some things that you're seeing?
Yeah, that's a great question, because we are exposed to different clients out there with different leadership teams, different employees, etc. I have a client that I'm working pretty closely with. I'm working with them on as a virtual CFO. And one of the things that they've been doing over the past year or so is they have a person in place who has stepped up into that controllership role. And what they have wanted me to do is really elevate her. So get her to the point where I'm taking my knowledge that I've learned over the years and giving it to her and really mentoring her on not only, as far as, financial statements, and as we talk about different products and products within, for example, when I say products, applications. So applications within the accounting and finance team. So just really helping her be elevated. And I think that is, I seen something when I first met her. I knew that she was very dedicated to the organization. She had that drive. She knew a lot of stuff, but she might not have been as technical as needed in a controllership role. So really helping her get there by providing all that advice, working hand in hand with her with the financial statements, providing her some additional education that's necessary to then eventually get her there. So I think that's pretty cool. Not every business sees that in people and invests that. And I think that's really cool. So
Yes, I'm curious then. So do you see that often where people are looking for you to level up their team, that somebody's coming in, they've got like that bookkeeper that up into a controller, or a controller up into a CFO? Is that part of what you're doing typically, or is that pretty unusual?
that's a little unusual. We are mentoring with, for example, if our clients have bookkeepers, we are mentoring with them. So typically we're meeting with them maybe every week or every other week as they go through issues. So they have a place that they can ask, especially if they're doing the day-to-day accounting. Obviously, if they're not doing their job well as a controller, you can't do your job well. So it works in both ways. So we can help them help us ultimately get to the final result. So no, but yes, I guess is the answer to that one.
Okay, and then following up on that, so if let's say you brought in from your team to help a client, you bring in, they've got a controller, let's say, and so you're maybe playing the CFO type role, and maybe you're bringing a bookkeeper type person to kind of fill out that team. As that person would say level up to get more CFO stuff, then would you be stepping out at some point? And does that, is it typical to change the roles and the people that you bring to a team as that client's team evolves?
Well, I never had that happen yet, but that would be the goal, right? Because if the team members existing and our clients are leveling up, then there's probably room for them to do that, meaning that the client is growing, the organization is growing, and they really need internal team to be able to do that on a day-to-day basis. So like I mentioned, we're fractional, so we're only visiting with them, on a part-time basis. And once you get in that 20 million mark, a little bit higher, you really need to start thinking about having an internal team. So if I would say that would be the end all, like having clients grow out of us would be positive in my opinion, because then they're successful. We help them hopefully get them to that level. So I think that's a win.
Yeah, absolutely. You're in there for a season to fill in the gaps and bring the value that they need at that moment. And then if it's fractional, it's a much more affordable approach. But at some point, hopefully they grow up and out of that and do need those internal resources. And then,
Exactly.
yeah, you can transition out. So yeah, good stuff. So attracting and retaining talent is such a big topic right now. I'm curious, what are you doing with your team to attract people to your outsourcing team? And then also, what are you seeing clients do to attract talent?
Yeah, that is in the accounting realm. I'm not sure, Ken, if you've heard this, but young adults coming out of college, or going into college actually, are not going into the accounting field. They're going to, IT, computers, engineering, other avenues, because of to become a CPA specifically, you need at least 120 credit hours or 150 credit hours, excuse me, in the state of Michigan. Now, that was not the case when I was coming up the ranks. So between the additional year of education, as well as some other factors, young adults are just not coming into the field. But there are still a lot that are there. So what we do is we try to attract them by giving them opportunity for growth. So when we're talking with new candidates, sort of spelling out, if you're coming in as an accounting specialist, where you could grow to and what that looks like, and the additional skills that you need to acquire in order to be, let's say, a CFO. Obviously, you're not going to go from an accounting specialist. That would be the first position and coming into the organization. If you came at the beginning of your career, you're not going to go from that position to a CFO in 2 years. That's going to take a lot of time to be able to acquire the skills to be able to advise our clients. But setting up how you get there is the key, and how they can build that experience so they can get to that level, I think would be one thing that we do to attract talent. The usage of technology. Kids at school are not they don't have paper. Everything is done electronically. I don't use paper. Everything's done electronically, right? So I can't even age myself. It's an ageless thing, right? So, but there are many firms, or companies, especially in our target market, that just haven't adopted technology, and you specifically have used it to its fullest. And we are a complete remote team, and the only way we can do this is with the technology. So we need to leverage that. So I think that is another reason why how we could attract talent is how we come to market, how we work on our day-to-day side of things. And then finally, we have cool clients. So it's really great to see our clients grow, have different businesses that they work in, get to know them a little bit, a lot, I should say, and just understand it. So I really like to, you get a breadth of different clients that you're working on. So you're not going to work for one organization. And that changes as you grow through your career, as well as the client grows. So we obviously like to assign team members to one engagement for a period of time, but things happen and people, grow as they move through their career, and sometimes things change. And so you get different clients as well, which is, I think, pretty cool. So.
Yeah, I love the part of being an advisor where you get to see so many different clients and in different industries, and just I'm always curious about how things work. So I love to get into different companies and just understand what they do and how they do it, and see the different ways that teams work together. There's no one formula of how to run a successful company. There's a lot of commonalities, but there's not necessarily just the one blueprint. And so to see people be successful different ways is always interesting. And then the beauty of being an advisor is you can share some of those kind of best practices with other clients. You say, hey, I saw this over in this industry, and that might work for you guys. And so it's a way to bring value and kind of cross-pollinate things that you get to see. So, well, the other half of the attraction part is the retention. So what are you guys doing and seeing with your clients as ways to retain the talent after you've worked hard to bring them in?
Yeah, I think the culture is a huge thing. So maintaining a fun environment, and you say, how do we get fun environment if we're all remote, right? Just keeping that light tone. I mean, we're accountants at heart. So, I mean, that is what it is. I'll make that joke. That wasn't really that funny, but, but anyways, but just keeping it light. Just, we're here to have fun. We're working as a team. Mistakes happen. You're not going to, whatever it be, however people envision themselves when they make a mistake. It happens. Let's learn from it. Let's surround us with how we can not make that mistake next time. That's the biggest thing to me, because I make them. You make them, Ken. We all do, right? It just is part of what we do. But just surrounding us with the tools so we don't make those once that does happen. The other thing is education. So I'm really big on educating the team. And as a CPA, you are required to take at least 40 hours of education annually. But we have a lot of our team members are not CPAs. And so last year what I did was rolled out an education plan. So now they are required to take 20 hours on an annual basis, eventually getting to 40. But we wanted to start off sort of that socializing thing a little bit at a time, over a period of time, at that 20 hours. So they can take, they're in LinkedIn Learning, getting some access to that. We have a lot of firm learning options as well. So they can get that technical background to then build themselves up over time. I would love to see people grow through the organization and not have to necessarily hire every time I need a controller. I would like to elevate people. But in order to do that, they need education. So,
yeah, providing a career path to people is important, and people want to see that I've got a place I can move up. And part of the way you do that isn't just experience, it's also education. And so I'm curious, how well was that received for people that aren't like a CPA, where you've got this licensing requirement to have 40 hours, where people didn't have a requirement, but you made a requirement of 20 hours. How was that received, and how did you work to make that be a positive? Because I can see people saying like, oh, 20 hours, oh, I don't want to do that. But, it's a net positive because it's going to help them with their career. So I'm curious how you manage that sale.
I think everyone was really on board with it. I did not have it. Well, to me, I didn't have any naysayers. So, and I think everyone just took it a piece at a time. Like, we're going to take, a couple hours a month. So it wasn't like 20 hours in one month. It was over a year is our annual plan that we are working towards. So it was really like I said, I didn't have anyone that was against it. I think they appreciated it, because especially with LinkedIn Learning, they have so many different topics that you can leverage, from Excel skills to soft skills to accounting skills. So you can really take advantage of a lot of different options when you're through that, as well as some of our internal resources as well. So I think everyone actually appreciated it more so.
Yeah, that's good, because like I said, it definitely is a net positive for people's careers, and the knowledge that you have is getting less valuable every day, and you've got to keep refilling with current knowledge and current information to stay fresh and stay on top of things. And so, yeah, you don't want to, it's not to force it on people, but maybe there's some circular reference there a little bit, because I think the team you've built is a team that's open to continuous learning. And so when you propose continuous learning, because of who you have, they're going to be open to that. So kudos to you to putting together a team that gets it, because I don't always see people appreciating the value of continuing education, and not formal continuing ed, like CE credits kind of thing, but just continual learning. And so, but it's critical to stay valuable in the marketplace today. So speaking of continuous learning, I'm curious, what kinds of things are you consuming, podcasts, books, audiobooks, whatever, to continue to build and refresh your knowledge?
Yeah, great question. I listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of industry, what people are doing in my industry, what people are doing in other industries, for example, the clients that I help with and serve. But specifically, as far as books are concerned, my last one I read was Power Questions, excuse me, Power Questions, who Andrew Sobel and Gerard Parmes. Great book. Got some great tidbits. I listened to it, like I said, and it was it was very insightful on things. I mean, it's probably nothing that you don't know, it's just put a different way, right? So, and how they placed the stories it was just awesome. I really enjoyed that. We're actually doing a book club with our group. So this is our first month. May is our first month of our book club. And so we are reading as a group or listening to whatever your fancy is that you want to do. Digital Body Language by Erica Doeren. And what the book is about is now in today's world, obviously we communicate through texting, instant messaging, email, teams without cameras, all these different venues, and how that changes and how we communicate and how we interpret things. And it just really brings light issues that people are having that sometimes it's easy to say, oh, it's not a big deal. Why are you even worried about it? But it is a big deal. So we have to be aware of it. I like to use, this isn't in the book. This is a real example. So I have teenage girls that are 18 and they're twins. And they obviously are constantly on their mobile device, right? That's how that generation is, as well as mothers, but especially my girls. And they have a Snap. So it's a Snapchat. It's the way they communicate. And one of the people they were communicating didn't answer them. And they knew that this person was on their phone, but not responding them on chat for 24 hours. It's the same thing as when we were kids. And maybe you didn't do that, but as a girl, we would wait by the phone, that corded phone, and will it ring? Will it ring? It's the same concept, right? Will they open the Snapchat? And I sort of chuckle at them and I laugh because I think, you're waiting for someone to open a Snap. Like, that just seems weird. But that's today. That's what we're doing today. And we have to realize that that's an important issue. And as a team from different ways of life, different generations within my team, we just have to be aware of that and recognize it and learn how to communicate together as a team, not only internally, but externally through other parts of our firm as well as with our clients. So it's just an insightful book, and I'm really looking forward to this summer on going through this book club with the team. So,
yeah, that topic is so interesting because the lack of body language, and that's such an important part of communication, facial expressions, and how people move when you're speaking, and you get that when you're in front of someone, and kind of when you're on a Zoom meeting or something. But as soon as you go full digital, you don't get that anymore. Texting, email, any of that. And then to hear what you just described, I hear that as taking what is fundamentally asynchronous, that you can send something and read it later. They're not at the same time, like you and I are talking at the same time right now. That's synchronous. And so, but it sounds like we've taken this asynchronous means of communication and made it feel like it's synchronous, like they're sitting by the phone waiting for the Snap to get read. And so there's a lot to unpack there from a human psychology standpoint of the expectations around synchronous when it's really asynchronous. That sounds like a great book. I also just love the idea of a book club. I think that's so powerful with a team to have that shared experience, the shared learning, and the shared language. So after you've read that book now, you'll have some shorthand phrases that will be referenced in the book that you can just say to each other, and you'll both know the thing that you read that, means more than just that quick saying, but it's such a great way to improve communication. I'm just a huge fan of book clubs. And to finish my gush, the Power Questions, that book is so good. As an advisor, it's so helpful to get good ideas about how to bring value to your clients. And for anybody out there who is looking to advise, whether they're on their own team or if you're an outside advisor that's got clients, if you want to really up your game on bringing value, that is such a good book for that. Just the way he thinks about how to think about what you're doing for your clients. It's so good. I love that one too. So yeah, those are great. And we'll get those in the show notes. So, well, Lisa, this has been fun. As we wrap up, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you, and who should do that? I'm assuming it's for sure clients that might need some outsourced accounting, but maybe accountants looking for a different kind of a role with a group like yours.
Yeah, absolutely. So either, I'm very present on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a great, and I'm assuming you'll share that in the show notes as well as my LinkedIn handle. And yeah, my email is great to reach out to me as well. So
Excellent. Well, this has been great. Again, I so appreciate your time on this. Thanks for spending some time walking through some of this stuff. It's been fun.
yeah, thanks, Ken. I really appreciate it.
Okay, good. With that, it brings us to the end of another Clarity Advisors show. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Clarity Advisors Show. Clarity Advisors is a speaking, training, and consulting firm specializing in helping you simplify your sales and operating systems to improve efficiency and grow your profits. Connect with Clarity Advisors today to learn more about how they can help you improve communication and get your team aligned and engaged for greater success.